are here to talk about RPSC English paper 2, the literature paper, that is. So are you all ready? On Friday, we had talked about the criticism and theory and grammar paper. So now it's the turn for the literature paper to be discussed. I hope all of you are ready. If you are new to our channel, please do subscribe. And if you're watching this video right now, then please do like this video. Well, that being said, let's get started with the session tonight, right? We have lots and lots of questions to discuss. So let me start by sharing the screen first. All right. Okay, right. Good evening, and welcome to this session. Yes. All right. So I hope the screen is visible to you all now. Yes, it is. So we have 150 questions to discuss. Right? Let's get started. In Langston Hughes's poem, I Too, the kitchen functions as a metaphor for what? As a metaphor for segregation and exclusion. Option 3. Which of the following novels of Toni Morrison is about womanhood and examines the dynamics of friendship and expectations for conformity within the community? It is Sula. Sula. Who among the following has authored the famous dark comedy Top Dog Underdog? That's by Susan Laurie Parks. Susan Laurie Parks. Which of the following has not been written by Zora Neale Hurston? It is Not Without Laughter. Not Without Laughter. Not Without Laughter is not by Zora Neale Hurston. It's by Langston Hughes. It's a novel by Langston Hughes. Who among the following was the first Black American to be appointed as consultant in poetry to the Library of Congress? It was a Robert Hayden. A Robert Hayden. Which of the following with reference to Baldwin's Go Tell It on the Mountain is or are correct? It is A, B, C, D are correct, right? Yes, A, B, C, D are correct. It describes John Grimes' relationship with his stepfather, Gabriel. It critiques the positive and negative aspects of Pentecostal church. No, C is not true. Only A, B, D. Sorry, A, B, D. Only A, B, D are correct. Option 3. Only A, B, D are correct. Black Boy, A Record of Childhood and Youth, is a fictional autobiography by Richard Wright. Richard Wright. Who of the following did not belong to the group of the fugitive poets? Maya Angelou. Maya Angelou. Which of the following characters in the color purple has been delineated by Alice Walker as a contemporary symbol of the ideal pattern of sexual and spiritual liberation and a rebuke of traditional Afro-American values and institutions? It is Shug Avery. Shug Avery. Okay, let me open your chat box for a second. I hope all of you can see the screen, right? I hope it's not blurred or anything. Yeah. It is Shug Avery. Shug Avery. Who among the following in his essay, The Homosexual in Society, has compared the plight of the homosexuals with that of African American and the Jews? It is Stanley Kunitz. Stanley Kunitz. All right. Which novel has been called the classic magic realist novel of West Africa, and who is its author? It is The Famished Road by Ben Okri. The Famished Road by Ben Okri. All right. Okay. Next question. We have a match the following. We have a match the following. Kobena A Aqua Kofi Anyedoho Kofi Aunur Richard Bowman, and these are the names of the works. Tell me, what would be the answer? See, such unknown names. They can also come in net exam, right? They can also come in the net exam. So you have to be very careful. Richard Bowman wrote Verbal Art as Performance. Richard Bowman wrote Verbal Art as Performance. So D will be 1. So I think the answer will be either option 1 or 2. Wait. Just give me a second. This is question number 12, right? Yeah. This will be option 2. So A2, Aqua wrote The Man Who Died. B4, Kofi Anyodoho wrote Earth Child. Aunur wrote Guardians of the Sacred. And Richard Bowman wrote Verbal Artist Performance. All right. Leopold Sedar Singh's essay, Negritude, A Humanism of the 28th Century, was first published in the Africa, a Reader, Independent Africa. Okay. The speaker in Dennis Brutus, I Am the Tree, compares the oppressed people to Twisted Tree, a sheet of teen and anguished voice. In which of his novels, Ngugi wa Thiong'o attacked the new leaders of the independent Kenya, portraying them as an elite class who had betrayed ordinary Kenyans? Petals of Blood. Petals of Blood. Which out of the following is not a characteristic of Manipian novel? Option 4. An abject classification of poetry, sketches, parodies, speeches, etc. Who among the following was the first African laureate to be awarded the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1986? That was Wole Soyinka. Wole Soyinka. Which of the following statements about the story of Nathan Gordimer's Burger's Daughter is or are correct? Question number 18. 3. Only B and D are true. B and D. That Rosa Burger was white and Bass's real name was this. All right. Which of the following statements given by John Reed and Clive Woke best defines negritude? It is rooting oneself in oneself and self-confirmation. All right. Which of the following novels written by Abdul Razak Gurna traces the transition within an East African coastal community of Zanzibar from colonial period to independence? It is Desertion. Desertion. Mordecai Richler, a Jewish writer from Montreal, was opposed to the principles of mainstream Canadian culture. Identify which of these statements about Atwood's The Handmaid's Tale are correct. The Handmaid's Tale is a dystopian novel, correct? And this one is correct. Its story is narrated by Offred in the first person, A and C. Option 2 are correct. Option 2 is correct. That is A and C are correct. Margaret Atwood's Booker Prize winning novel, The Testaments, was a sequel to her novel, The Handmaid's Tale. The Handmaid's Tale. The short story collection, A Bear Came Over the Mountain, is by Alice Munro. Alice Munro. I hope all of you are following. Okay. Next. Jean Rees wrote White Sargasso Sea. Samuel Selvin wrote The Lonely Londoners. Edwidge Danticat wrote The Farming of Bones. And Gabriel Garcia Marquez wrote 100 Years of Solitude. So A3. B1, C2, D4. Option 1 will be the answer. In A Fine Balance by Rohit and Mistry, Ishwar and Om later work for Dina Dalal as tailors. Dina Dalal. In the introduction of which of his following novels George Lamming wrote, "In the desolate frozen heart of London, at the age of 23, I tried to reconstruct the world of my childhood and early adolescence. It was also the world of a whole Caribbean reality." George Lamming wrote this in the novel In the Castle of My Skin. In the Castle of My Skin. Which of the following statements is incorrect? Option 4. The Jean Rhys woman is a rich and empowered woman. Derek Walcott's epic poem Omeros is a retelling of Homer's Iliad. Homer's Iliad. Which of the following Caribbean authors, a historian by profession and a poet by conviction, believes that West Indian poet and intellectual should achieve a sense of wholeness by transcending colonial problems and healing it? Edward Braithwaite. Edward Braithwaite. In which one of the given poems do the following lines occur? Yet the dignity of his whipping holds us back from his space. The hollow he makes about him in the midday light in his pentagram of sorrow. These are lines from Les Murray's An Absolutely Ordinary Rainbow. In A.D. Hope's poem, as well as the can, it and he and I in the first and third stanza, respectively, respectively are, are referred to the hooked fish, the poet, and the speaker. Option 2. Next. Which of the following is or are correct about the story in Patrick White's The Tree of Man? Only A is correct. Amy has a brief affair with Leo. 33. Only A is correct. Okay? 33. Only A is correct. That Amy has a brief affair with Leo. Only this is correct. Okay. Question 34. We have matched the following. The right answer will be option 3. A4. Patrick White wrote The Ham Funeral. B1. Dorothy Hewitt wrote The Chapel Perilous. Then C2. Thomas Kennelly wrote The Playmaker. And Ben Elton wrote The Beautiful Game. Who among the following is the author of the poem Australia? Very easy. It's by A.D. Hope. A.D. Hope wrote the poem Australia. Okay. Yeah. Next. Who said this about English language? It is the language of our intellectual makeup, like Sanskrit and Persian was before, but not of our emotional makeup. Who said this? It was said by Raja Rao. Raja Rao. Homi Bhabha argued that colonial identity is never pure or fixed, but always formed in between in what he called the third space. Very easy. Homi Bhabha, third space. Which one of these concepts describes the ways in which dominant culture marginalizes subordinate groups? It is othering, othering, othering. Right. Are you all following? Yes? Yes. Correct. This paper will also help the net aspirants. This paper will also help the net aspirants. Next, the language I speak becomes mine. Its distortions, its queerness, all mine, mine alone. Who wrote these lines? Kamla Das. Kamla Das. A.K. Ramanujan's poem, A River, attempts to ironically draw a contrast between the old and new Tamil poets. The old and new Tamil poets. R. Parthasarathi has titled the different parts of his poem A Rough Passage as Exile, Trial, and Homecoming. The poem The Ghagra in Spade by Keki and Daruwala describes the impact of flood on the village. The village. In which novel of Kamala Markandaya, the Indo-British personal uh, relationships are highlighted in Mira's love for Richards. Some inner fury. Some inner fury. To whom does the number 1084 referred to in Maheshwata Devi's Mother of 1084? It is Broti, the dead body. Broti, Broti. Rama Mehta's Inside the Haveli tells the story of which character's journey of carving out an identity in a new environment. It's Gita. Gita. Again, imagine the following question, question number 46. The answer will be option 1. A2. Savitri Devi Nanda wrote A City of Two Gateways. B4. Brinda Maharani of Kapurthala wrote The Story of an Indian Princess. C3. Maharani Gayatri Devi of Jaipur wrote A Princess Remembers. And Dhanavanthi Ramarao wrote An Inheritance. These are the authors and these are their autobiographies. Not knowing who I am or what I want, I roam the city, walk into movies, hurtle down a roller coaster till mirrors in a mirror shop break me up into how many I was, show me in profile and fragment. The above lines show the multifaceted personality of which of the following poets? Nissim Ezekiel. Nissim Ezekiel. Who is the narrator in Raja Rao's Kanthapura? It is Achakka. Achakka is the narrator in Raja Rao's Kanthapura. Achakka is the narrator in Raja Rao's Kanthapura. Which era was followed by the political mood of disillusionment as reflected in Karnad's Tughlaq? Nehru era of idealism. Okay. Dom Moraes wrote My Son's Father. Ved Mehta wrote Face to Face. Niraj C. Chaudhary wrote The Autobiography of an Unknown Indian. K.A. Abbas wrote I Write as I Feel. Okay. What does the title of the poem Pilgrim of the Night by Sri Aurobindo signify? Spiritual struggle. Spiritual struggle. An unfinished song by Shwarna Kumari Devi Ghoshal begins with which poet's quotation, setting the tone for the novel? It is Wordsworth. Wordsworth. Wait. Oh, it is Lord Byron. Sorry, Lord Byron. 52-1. Lord Byron. Lord Byron. What is the central question? The novel A Passage to India by E.M. Foster explores whether an Englishman and an Indian can ever be friends. Which central issue does Meenakshi Mukherjee address in her essay, The Anxiety of Indianness, Our Novels in English? The search for authentic Indian identity in English writing. Who has written the long poem The Captive Lady, based on the story of the life of Prithviraj? Michael Madhusudhan Dutt. Michael Madhusudhan Dutt. What common idea connects Rabindranath Tagore's poem Heaven of Freedom with Gandhi's approach? Freedom as self-rule. Freedom as self-rule. As a reaction to which debate of the 19th century was Cornelia Sorabji's essay Stray Thoughts of an Indian Girl written? Indian child marriage and age of consent laws. Indian child marriage and age of consent laws. Which character in The Home and the World embodies militant nationalism? Sandeep, the character of Sandeep. Are you all following or sleeping? following. Okay. Chalo. Hyphenated identities in diasporic literature refers to what? Conflicted cultural affiliations between homeland and hostland. Which of the following is not correct about Sri Aurobindo's Savitri? Question 60. 4. It is written in couplet form. That's not correct. Option 4 is the answer. Which of the following writers in the famous writing Aryan Witness seeks to prove that the Prajapati of the Vedas is Christ? Krishna Mohan Banerjee. Krishna Mohan Banerjee. In Anita Desai's Bye Bye Blackbird, the blackbird metaphorically represents what? The racial prejudice faced by Indian immigrants. How does Vijay Mishra define the new Indian diaspora? As transnational professionals with upward mobility. According to Salman Rushdie, nostalgia idealizes the homeland by making it a mythic imagined space. A mythic imagined space. In V.S. Naipaul's The Enigma of Arrival, the arrival is most closely associated with a psychological awakening and self realization. Gibril and Chamcha are two important characters from which of the following works of Salman Rushdie? It is the Satanic Verses. The Satanic Verses. What is the significance of the third space in diaspora writing? It's a metaphorical space of hybridity and negotiation of identity. Which of the following facts regarding Kiran Desai's The Inheritance of Loss is not correct? Option 2, it deals with the historical backdrop of the insurgency in the northeastern states of India. False. It talked specifically about the Gorkhaland movement. So option 2 is not true about Kiran Desai's The Inheritance of Loss. Okay. In Joseph Anton, a memoir, Rushdie describes the experience of the exile as one frozen in time. As the one frozen in time. Yes. Correct. Chalo. Bhabha uses the term menace of mimicry to describe the way mimicry challenges the fixity of colonial power and its knowledge. Which novel by Bharati Mukherjee traces the perilous journey of a young widow from Punjab to US? It is Jasmine. Jasmine. Which novel of Amitav Ghosh focuses on the political and historical events of colonial and post-colonial India? It is The Shadow Lines. The Shadow Lines. What have an answer? It's important for your net too. Which of the following statements pertaining to Dalit literature is not correct? Option 4 is the answer that in Man You Should Explode, Dhasal tries to mimic classical Marathi literary conventions. Option 4 is the answer. It's not true about Dalit literature. The Prisons We Broke by Baby Kamble serves as a significant example of a genre within Dalit literature, which is characterized by powerful personal memories and testimonials and lived experiences. Which of the following statements regarding Daya Pawar is not correct? Answer will be Baluta received negative responses from Dalit community is not correct. Option 3 is the answer. In which of the following languages did the Dalit literary movement start relatively later than in other languages? It is Hindi. Hindi. Who, on reading Ambedkar's Annihilation of Caste, said that when I first read it, I felt as though somebody had walked into a dim room and opened the windows. It was said by Mahatma Gandhi, who said that the Dalit literature is not a literature of art but of life. It was said by Sharan Kumar Limbale, who said in his autobiography that a new word, Dalit, entered my vocabulary, a word that is not a substitute for Harijan, but an expression of rage of millions of untouchables. Om Prakash Valmiki said this in Juthan, a Dalit's life. In Juthan, a Dalit's life. Okay. Which of the following statements regarding Limbale's Akarmashi are correct? A and C are correct. He states that Akarmashi is not an autobiography of the self, but of the community, and he writes, the span of my autobiography is my childhood. A and C are correct. The Branded Uchchaliya by Lakshman Gaikwar is an autobiographical novel. An autobiographical novel. The organization, the Dalit Panthers, a group of Marathi writer activists, was inspired by a group called Black Panthers, which was an organization for African Americans' rights. African Americans' rights. Are you all there or sleeping? There? Okay. Hey, someone like the video? Why so many few likes? Here I'm shouting my lungs out and saying you all the answers. What is the tone of Sangati towards the Dalit women's future? Hopeful and empowering, emphasizing strength and education. Which issue is taken up by the story of Nandana Street by Vizhi Pa Idayavanthan? Coercion and conversion of the marginalized. Limbale wrote Akarmashi. Bama wrote Karukku. Daya Pawar wrote Baluta. Om Prakash Valmiki wrote Juthan. Who is associated with the birth of Protestantism? Martin Luther. Martin Luther. है कि सो गए? Are you all there? Don't fall asleep. Practice these questions very well. Those are important for net also. Sir Thomas More was beheaded in 1535 because he refused to honor the Act of Supremacy, making Henry the head of the church in England. And as for your Latin or Greek tongue, everything is so excellently done in them that none can do better. In the English tongue, contrary, everything in a manner so meanly. The above quote is taken from Toxophilus by Ascham. Toxophilus by Ascham. Petrarch wrote sonnets to his ideal woman, Laura. Laura. Which of the following is the main theme of Ben Jonson's The Poet Esther? To highlight a quarrel of Johnson with his contemporaries. This will be Tyndale's translation of New Testament fixed a standard of good English and at the same time brought that standard not only to the scholars but to the homes of common people. Tyndale's translation of New Testament. Barabbas is the central character in which work? Barabbas in the Jew of Malta. In the Jew of Malta. Are you all there? Yes? Good. Don't start sleeping, okay? Yes. Stay awake. Which of the following works did finally put an end to the trend of bringing classical meters into English poetry? Defense of Rhyme. Defense of Rhyme. View of the State of Ireland was by Edmund Spenser. Edmund Spenser. For which historical work is Sir Walter Raleigh known? The History of the World. The History of the World. The play Women Beware Women is by Middleton. Thomas Middleton wrote Women Beware Women. है कि गए? Are you all there? I'm asking this because I don't want you to fall asleep. Okay. Which of the following plays contains the play within the play Pyramus and Thisbe? Pyramus and Thisbe is the play within the play in A Midsummer Night's Dream. A Midsummer Night's Dream. The tragedy of Mariam has come to be celebrated critically as the first original dramatic work by a woman in England. Who wrote it? The Tragedy of Mariam is by Elizabeth Carey. Elizabeth Carey. Life of William Shakespeare was by Sidney Lee. Sidney Lee. We are such stuff as dreams are made of, and our little life is surrounded with sleep. The above quote is taken from Tempest and spoken by Prospero. Tempest and Prospero. All right. Are you all there? Yes? Okay. Which work believed to have been written by John Webster did not survive in the written form? Lady Jane. Lady Jane. John Donne's The Flea is a classic example of a metaphysical conceit because it uses an extended metaphor connecting a trivial object to a serious theme. Which of the following is least characteristic of metaphysical poetry? Emphasis on emotional spontaneity over intellectual play. Who commented on John Donne that he was the first poet of the world in some things, but likely to perish for not being understood? Ben Jonson said this. Ben Jonson. Who among the below uh, said that true ease in writing comes from art, not chance, as those move easiest who have learned to dance? These lines were said by Alexander Pope. Alexander Pope. Who among the following has been called the Shakespeare of divines and a kind of Spencer in a cassock? It was Jeremy Taylor. Jeremy Taylor. The Faithful Shepherdess is a play by John Fletcher. John Fletcher. The Vanity of Human Wishes by Johnson is in Heroic Couplet. Heroic Couplet. Okay. From which work by Samuel Butler have these following lines been taken, which attacks all species of follies in human nature? For rhetoric, he could not open his mouth, but out there flew a trope. And when he happened to break off in the middle of his speech or cough, he had heard words ready to show why and tell what rules he did it by. Those lines were taken from Samuel Butler's Hudibras. Hudibras. Thomas Rhymer wrote The Tragedies of the Last Age Considered. A4. B3. Mulgrave wrote Essay upon Poetry. Dennis wrote The Grounds of Criticism in Poetry. And Granville wrote Essay on Unnatural Flights in Poetry. Samuel Butler's Hudibras is modeled on which work? It is modeled on Don Quixote. Don Quixote. Which of the work below is by Edward Gibbon? Edward Gibbon wrote The Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire. The Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire.